I've decided to take a detour from bashing creationists in order to talk about a book which I bought over Eid al-Fitr having coincided in this case with the Gem and Mineral show in Denver, Colorado. So basically my idea, as the Arabs call it, is going to be this particular book along with 6 fossil shark teeth from the Eocene and a piece of ulexite known as TV rock. I really recommend people to actually get a hold of that rock. It's the most awesome thing ever. It looks opaque, but when you lay it on a piece of paper with writing on it, you can see right through it if you got the right angle. So if you want me to get technical, it's because it's got 2 cleavage points that result in a rod-like gem structure. You can see through the rod, but not across the rod. But I digress. This isn't today's subject. The subject actually happens to be a book I got, which I would really love to recommend to people all across YouTube who are interested in dinosaur paleontology. Anything about dinosaur paleontology in a basic format. It's called The Dinosauria. It's edited by David B. Weishampel, Peter Dodson, and Hauska Osmolska. It's basically a compendium of dinosaur articles related to anything from classification to extinction to metabolism. So it's very varied. They have in their table of contents 30 different articles on the subject, distributed in 2 or 3 sections. And they cite 685 pieces of literature. It has 775 contributors. It lists 777 genera and species index, which kind of reminds me of Kuwait's emergency phone number. Stratigraphic and geographic index is also listed, and so is the subject index. So as you've probably guessed, this is kind of a directory. It's like a telephone directory, only a little far more detailed. So they're going to give you articles about the dinosaur forms in general. Anything from classification to how they went extinct. But they also provide a list of pieces of literature that we can look up in case we want to study them as well as the papers already in the book. And we can also look up information on the contributors just by knowing their names. We could just Google them and find out. And of course the genera and species index is very valuable for anybody who wants to learn about the distribution and the types of dinosaurs. So it's a very detailed. It is in the order of hundreds of pages, almost 900 or so pages. It's a very formidable read, and in my opinion it is a very good book. It's a good introduction to anybody with a basic college education who wishes to go into the Dinosauria. The good things about this book is, as I said, it's multi-subjected, and it has a directory with which to look up other papers that you want for the person to study and scrutinize for himself. Just look at how people research. It's also a good directory for names because of the sheer number of contributors, and it's a great way of testing competing hypotheses, because there are competing hypotheses in this book. The only real problem I see in it is that it is very jargon ridden, mostly because they're basically taking papers or abstracts of papers and they're putting them in the book. So basically you're dealing with 30 different scientific articles in one, and it can be very jargony. It is very formidable to look at. I mean, most people would probably keel over looking at the jargon. I even have a hard time understanding it, and I'm being educated on the subject. Another problem is that some of the articles they cite are just not the kind of articles you want to cite if you want to show how reputable you are. Especially the one from Dr. John Rubin. In this case, it's article number 28, Physiology of Non-Avian Dinosaurs. Anuyasa Chinsami and William J. Hellenius. Those were co-workers or colleagues of Rubin and all and others, and they actually managed to put their article in there for some reason. And as you can expect from one of my videos, it's pretty much full of shit. So I do not recommend people to read it unless they want to lose a few IQ points. It's a true insult to your intelligence just reading it. But that's if you know enough about dinosaurs. Another problem with it is that it is very long. It's a very big book. It's not good to read in one sitting, obviously. It's not like the Dinosaur Heresies, which I have right here, borrowed from the library. It's the same length, roughly. Dinosaur Heresies is shorter, but because it's lighter in terminology, it's not as jargon-ridden, and it's discussed in a story-like format, it tends to be easier to read as a sitting. But this, you can't really read it like a normal book. It's more like a directory. If you need information about a particular subject regarding dinosaurs, you just go find yourself the paper that concerns itself with the subject and read it. You can't really read it in order unless you want to fry your brains out, as, again, I said that it is very jargony. Of course, the jargony part, I must point out, before anybody is discouraged, is in fact made easier by a series of pages at the beginning called Abbreviations Used in Figures. As it indicates, they have abbreviations for all sorts of important things. For example, the very first thing they have is the cranial anatomy, and then and it's a very long one. It's 4 pages almost. They also have they go into cranial soft anatomy, and then they go into the axial skeleton, and then they move on to the appendicular skeleton, and then the postcranial soft anatomy, and then the general abbreviations in geological time. So they do try to make it easier for you to understand the terminology by isolating the various anatomical parts. That way, if you're confused about a particular body part, you can Google it or look up an encyclopedia. I have Britannica over in Texas, which I left behind. But it is a very, very good abbreviation, or a series of abbreviations. It really helps to ease the jargon for anybody who's uninitiated. It has a foreword and introduction, which are very good. I'd recommend people to read it. It's kind of long, but again, it's very much worth it. It does explain a few things. There's also a well-organized geological time chart on page 2, if you would like to look. It's in the introduction by David B. Weishampel, Peter Dodson, and Hatzgalos Moska, i.e. the editors. And it is a very, very beautiful, well-written document. It's a soft paperback, and the cost, though expensive, is well worth the money. It's about $55, and so yeah, I pretty much burned a hole in my college money, but it is well worth the money. It's well worth every penny. It's great if you want to go into dinosaur paleontology. In my opinion, it is a far, far better upgrade, in spite of the fact that it's still very jargony for something meant for public consumption. But it is very much a step ahead of the previous compendium that I had, which was The Complete Dinosaur by Farlow and others, back from 1997. This book, by the way, is the second edition. The first edition is from 2003, so it is an upgrade, basically. It's a very good upgrade of the previous compendium that I know, compared to the previous compendiums I know about. So try to get a hold of it if you love dinosaurs. It should be on eBay, I hope. It's called the Dinosauria. It's edited by David B. Weishampel, Peter Dodson, and Hatzgalos Moska. It's the latest edition, so it's the second edition. And the Journal of Paleontology actually calls it the #1 must-have for anybody seriously interested in dinosaur paleontology. So, if you're into dinosaurs, try to get a hold of it. Have a good day.